Hey everyone, thank you so much for clicking on this Netflix review. The fact that you are willing to sacrifice a few minutes out of your day to consume my content really does mean the world to me. For those of you that are unaware, I review everything that gets released on Netflix. So if you're ever curious about whether something is good or bad or completely mediocre, you want to know my thoughts on the latest releases, come to my channel. I want to make sure that you watch what you love. So come to my channel where I will recommend the best of the best to you. So guys, today we're going to be talking about the new Netflix Transformers series, Kingdom, which is actually the third season of this ongoing Netflix Transformers series. For those of you that are unaware, I love Transformers. I grew up on Transformers, Optimus Prime. The voice actor, actually, Peter Cullen, shares a birthday with me, July 28th, which is just so freaking cool. And so we're actually going to be talking about this on July 29th, the day after Peter Cullen's birthday. So let's dive right into my review of Transformers Kingdom. I'm going to tell you guys this. The Netflix Transformers series have left me feeling very, I can't even put a word on it. Unfulfilled, maybe, is probably the best way. I'm not saying they're bad in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I really enjoy very specific sequences out of these series. But I always leave them feeling just a little bit deflated, feeling, was that what I wanted out of a Transformers series? And I can say I feel for the very first time since watching these Netflix Transformers series, I can finally say that is what I wanted out of this series. And that was actually just such a relief to finally be able to experience a Netflix Transformers series that made me feel fulfilled as a fan. So I'm going to dive straight into the story a little bit here. Ultimately, the Autobots, Decepticons crash land, and ultimately they are just on the brink of devastation, of destruction. They're chasing after the Allspark. They have to get the Allspark to save Cybertron while, of course, battling one another. But then, potential spoiler alert, if you didn't realize where the series was heading with the title Kingdom, or if you just haven't seen any of the promotional material, so slight spoiler here, but we then meet the Predacons and the Maximals, which was just great because Optimus Primal was just such a unique and interesting legacy character to me. And I think he is a very large part of why I enjoy the idea of legacy so much. I always question myself, like, cool, am I going to be leaving an impactful legacy? What are people going to think about me when I'm gone? And I feel like a large part of that stemmed off of my understanding of Optimus Primal as a character. So to see him and Optimus Prime engage with one another was honestly like a dream come true for me. Optimus Prime being one of my favorite characters of all time, and Optimus Primal being one of my favorite legacy characters of all time. And in many ways, I don't want to call him a legacy character because he's a character in and of himself. I think we here get a great example of these two characters engaging and interacting. We get the exact same thing with the Megatrons. In fact, we actually get a lot more screen time with G1 Megatron and Beast Wars Megatron engaging with one another. And so it's great to see the Predacons, Maximals, Decepticons, and Autobots all engaging together in a series. But what I will say is this series is definitely not perfect. In fact, I'll say the first 5 episodes definitely gave me that unfulfilled feeling I was talking about earlier. I was feeling very deflated watching the first 5 episodes. The final episode, however, is really where it all comes together, and it ultimately becomes a fanboy's dream. And I won't spoil that in any way, shape, or form. But when you watch the final episode and you see the characters that arrive, and you see the characters engaging with one another, you'll understand exactly why I've said that. But ultimately, I feel like this series, the pacing was so poor. That is definitely the series' biggest issue. The pacing is just terrible. The first 5 episodes, they try to cram so much into it and they rush through every single plot point. It literally feels like you're watching a sprint. These characters are running from different situations, from situation to situation, from action set piece to set piece. You're sitting there going, yo, please just chill. Just chill. Let's have some character motivation, character development, some engagement. And I feel, again, this is actually where I feel like Kingdom had the worst handling of the characters, is character developments. We actually got so few character sequences where it's just characters developing, growing. Not to say there isn't any. We do get a few scenes dedicated to characters discussing their moral compass and figuring out what they want to do with their lives. And those scenes were great. But especially when you compare it to the first 2 seasons, this series really feels like it lacked character depth. So I really feel like we had some pacing issues. I feel like we definitely had some character developmental issues. And ultimately, I want to say the choreography, unfortunately, let me down again. I have never been wowed with any of these Transformers series in regards to their choreography. And that's a little bit disappointing. And I know it's not fair to compare these to the Michael Bay films, but those films are so extravagant and I know the budget isn't even comparable, but watching those sequences take place, I'm just awestruck. And when I watch this series, I'm feeling a little bit disheartened. I know I'm sounding very, very negative about this series, and please don't get me wrong. As a Transformers fan, this is something that you can definitely enjoy and definitely engage with. But I really feel like they could have done more, especially bringing the Maximals, Predacons, Decepticons, and Autobots together. I really feel like we could have gotten a lot more exploration about this idea of time travel. How does our past impact our futures, our presents, everything? How does it mean to change your destiny? The idea of destiny is tackled a lot in this series. Destiny, free will, and I really wish we just got more of those character moments where we just got to explore those themes a little bit more. But all in all, this was still an enjoyable Transformers series with a final episode that will make every fanboy just love it. I loved this final episode, and I'm not going to get into details why, but I want to so bad. But that final episode is something you have to experience for yourself. But guys, ultimately, I'm going to recommend this to every single Transformers fan. If you're a fan of not just the Michael Bay movies, but Cybertron, the Netflix series, Prime, Energon, I feel like this series is definitely a step up from the more childish or kiddie stories we got in earlier Transformers series. They definitely tackle heavier themes like death, loss. I want to actually explore the character of Optimus Prime a little bit more because he is someone that isn't our stereotypical Optimus Prime. This portrayal of Optimus Prime is actually someone who doubts himself a lot. He doubts himself a lot. And he's not untouchable. He's not this incredibly overpowered character, especially what happens in the Michael Bay films. In the Michael Bay films, he's portrayed as untouchable despite the fact that he dies in the second one, but he comes back even stronger. You know if Optimus Prime is there, you know you're safe. That's not the case with this portrayal of Optimus Prime. He's doubting himself. Whenever he makes a decision, his decisions haunt him. And very often he loses a lot of his fights. In fact, I would say he probably loses a majority of his fights, not in this season, but in the series as a whole. He's very seldomly victorious. And that's an interesting take on the Optimus Prime character, one that I personally don't necessarily love, but it's great to see this new idea of Optimus Prime being depicted. But guys, thank you so much for watching. You are awesome. You're the best. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't yet, and I hope to see you again in another review.